Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Whoa. Whoa. Oh. Off the touch. Welcome everybody for the night. You know what that means? It is time. The Mark Order Podcast. Part of the Shining Wizards Network, live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Hope y'all are having a good night out there. We got Ryan Storms here.
Hello, hello.
With who's that? Fiddler?
Yeah, it's big business.
I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
I'm not sure if I've seen the full thing. I've seen more bits and pieces back in the day.
All right. Well, I'll take it. We got Asian Joe.
Good evening.
How you guys
I
doing?
apparently wore the right sweatshirt today.
Well, come on. We know you threw it on right before we started, and it's okay. What is it? I see the Bruins. Get out of here.
I mean, that's the wrong sweatshirt always.
Yeah. We're being
I'm a
honest.
sucker for a good deal.
What was the deal?
I don't know. It's cheap. It looked cool. It's it's one of the story franchises of the league.
When we went to, what was it? Pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic, when we went to Baltimore for Ring of Honor's Free Enterprise. Yeah, that's the one. Free Enterprise. They had a whole bunch of stuff for sale outside. It was like a sidewalk sale where they were just trying to get rid of like as much shit as they could, which is great. I got a Dalton Castle crew neck that looks like a Christmas sweater, and it says boys, boys, boys all over it, like in certain places. It was maybe like a $10 sweatshirt down from like 50. So I was like, that's a deal. And it just looks fantastic. So I'm with you there, but there are certain lines I won't cross, like Boston Bruins.
I can't wear Boston Bruins.
No. So, gentlemen, how's everybody doing? Saturday night was a good time, I hear.
Yeah, Saturday night was a party. It was wild. We got insane.
If you're not checking out the Saturday Night Collider cast, you should be. So make sure you go check it out live on Saturday nights. Asian Joe and Ryan are watching along with Collision and talking about Rampage and everything else that gets brought up during that show. And every once in a while, they'll have a special guest. So that's fun. So make sure you check it out. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Other than that, any of you guys do anything fun over the weekend?
Not really, to be quite honest. No.
Well, you're still coming down from vacation mode, right? Over the weekend.
Yes, well, I'm pretty down at this point. Once you have to go back to work, it all goes away.
Sure, that's pretty fast. Joe, what about you? Anything you were getting into over the weekend?
It was pretty quiet. Yeah, it was pretty quiet. Sold some shoes. That's about it.
Okay. You sold shoes?
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Locally to a store in town.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't on the private market. You You sold to a third party store.
Yes.
What'd you sell? Something good or?
I don't know. Just things that have been sitting on my shelf, taking up space that I haven't worn. And, sometimes you need some extra money. I'm trying to reach your levels.
What size shoe are you?
10.5.
Oh, I was gonna say, if we were the same shoe size, you could hit me up. Maybe we could transact, but we're not close.
I have a small foot for my height.
Well, see, my problem is my foot is wide, so I require a longer shoe. But
Yeah.
I look like Sideshow Bob because I'm just wearing long shoes.
You have one of those Lego brick feet.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well be like Kevin in The Office wearing tissue boxes on my feet.
Mhm.
Like, that would be much better. Not for support, but for width, certainly better. Those Air Force Ones, Joes, I got to do a 13 because I need the width.
Ooh.
I need the width.
Those run big to begin with.
The last shoe I bought in any width, it was like when it was New Balance, it was a 4E.
4E, yeah.
It's really wide. I got fucked up feet. Well, what else happened over the weekend? Did either of you watch the Grammys like I did and then realize you don't know anything about music anymore?
I didn't watch the Grammys, I can tell you that much.
I watched for about a half hour or so.
I mean, what else are you going to do on a Sunday night? There's no football. There's no baseball. There's nothing on.
Not watch the Grammys.
You could read a book. You could watch a movie. You could, I don't know.
I did
write
watch.
letters.
I did watch Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Hmm.
and what's it? True Detective, Night Country. I think it is a new one. I don't know. But yeah, the Grammys. I had no idea who almost everybody was. I knew Tracy Chapman. She sang Fast Car with that country guy. That was good. I knew Joni Mitchell, but that was sad. Everybody else was like, who the hell is this?
I didn't realize she was still with us.
Yeah, she's like almost died apparently like 4 times. So she just sat in a chair and they turned her around. I say a chair, it was like a throne. They slowly turned her around, but
How
her voice.
I didn't check the Billy Joel performance. How was that?
I mean, the new song is like a Billy Joel song, you know? It wasn't 80s doo-wop Joel.
We only play Uptown Girl. That's all we do. We only play Uptown Girl.
We are Uptown Girl.
We only do 80s Joel.
Why don't you take you and your whore wife and get out of here? You screwed my nut. Yeah, it was okay, Joe. It was classic Billy Joel. Like it sounded like a Billy Joel song. But here's the crazy part. So then they gave away the final award. I think Taylor Swift won, whatever. And then they had him perform one more time. And I don't remember the name of the song, but it was classic Billy Joel. It was like a song that you would know. They play it all over the radio. It wasn't Piano Man or anything like that, but it was a classic Billy Joel song. And at the end of it, they like pull out or they go to a wide shot and the place is fucking empty. He's not even off stage or finished yet. The place is emptied out. It looked bad. It looked real bad. But yeah, I see people saying, "Oh, Vengeance Day." Was that really the name of it?
That was what I watched on Sunday. That's right.
Yeah, there's no chance I'm watching that.
Good wrestling.
No, I have no interest. I'm not going to watch it. There's other stuff that I have interest in that I don't even watch, like the New Japan stuff. Everybody's like, "You should watch New Japan." I'm like, "I'll get on that," and I'm like, "I never do." I just knew there was no shot. Ryan, are you mourning for Carl Weathers passing? I mean, it's
I mean,
very
that
important
sucks.
to it's very important to Philadelphia.
I mean, he was kind of an enemy, but and then a friend, so like a frenemy. But
I mean, he's responsible for showing Rocky how to find the eye of the tiger. Without him,
There's
there's
no
no
Rocky.
Rocky.
well, yeah, because he also gave Rocky the title shot because he thought he'd beat him easily.
And then gave him the rematch because he's like, it was a fluke.
And then it wasn't a fluke.
I have to address this because I see Scott George put this in the chat. Anti AEW, man. That's not the case, Scott. The case is I don't watch NXT or go out of my way to watch some of these other brands because I don't enjoy it. So I
I
don't
mean, and it's
enjoy
kind of the truth then. You only watch AEW.
No, I've watched other stuff. I choose not to watch things I don't enjoy. So I chose not to watch NXT because it used to be good and then it wasn't. And I'm not going back to it. Same thing with the WWE. I've sat and watched New Japan stuff, but I don't like catch everything. I don't watch all of Ring of Honor. I still haven't even seen what was it, Death Before Dishonor or Final Battle? I still haven't watched Final Battle from 2023. I mean, there's stuff I like that I don't watch. I didn't watch Collision from the weekend. I probably won't. And I watch AEW regularly. Oh, Scott George says he's playing off the piano, man. But that's okay. I just want to make sure it's not a simp thing.
You're not an AEW shill.
No, because I've been critical of it before. I'll tell you when it sucks. Things certainly suck, like Chris Jericho. That certainly sucks. Other things don't suck, like the Young Bucks and Swerve and Hangman Adam Page. We're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to talk about all that stuff. And then we'll talk about some news and notes. But I mean, I think we're ready to start talking about Dynamite, unless somebody else has
Do we
something
want
to
to just
talk
start
about.
with the biggest news in it, though? The one that's everyone's talking about?
No,
Why? Because it might divide. It might be a good division in the show.
trust me, the people who care about that aren't here. Like,
Okay.
those people are over somewhere else watching it. I mean, okay, you want to talk about it? We could talk about it. They're going to Boston.
I just feel like it's the biggest news of the night. It's probably the biggest news so far. Well, for AEW, I was going to say, because for every other company, it's not even close. But for AEW, probably the biggest news of the year.
that they're
so
doing
far.
a show in Boston called Big Business.
Yes, which it means they have Mercedes Monet.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yes, it does. They put in their own graphic Boston spelled with double S's and the money sign, which is her thing. It's in her colors. It's her. Like they're doing exactly what they did with Punk. They're not even they're hiding it, but they're not trying to. It's there.
But they didn't say it. It's not confirmed.
It's,
Was the announcement tonight that Mercedes Monet is signed to All Elite Wrestling?
Are we really doing this?
Ryan, you want to fucking talk about it? We're talking about it.
Are we really doing this, or we're going to try to play that this isn't the case? That
Ryan,
she's not coming?
Ryan, is this a problem? Would you like to do this your way? I'll step out. You could talk about it the way you want to. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
There's no doubt. I mean, I'm avoiding the outside sources because you don't like them, and I'm just saying through their own stuff, they've given away vague that she's there.
It's already spoiled. I've seen it. Everybody fucking retweets everything as soon as it happens.
So she's there. They have her.
They haven't said it.
They've all but said it because they don't like to flat out say it. They like to build a little bit of the anticipation.
But am I wrong saying that they did not explicitly say they have Mercedes? This is the same thing that happened in Los Angeles. Am I wrong about
it's not
that?
even close to the same thing.
Joe, have a good show.
Because-
I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
What do you want to talk about?
I'm waiting to see how long he gives us before he signs back in. But if he's not, but they have her. I'm not like they do. They put the I don't have the picture up, but if you look over tickets, it says Boston, BO money sign TON. That's her thing. It's in her colors. It's the biggest deal. I mean, they're rolling out the red carpet. And they're doing exactly what they did with Punk, giving her her own show with her building of the anticipation. It's this whole thing that they haven't done really for anyone else but him. Am I wrong? Is there any other wrestler that they rolled out this red carpet for?
Trying to think of other big names that come in. Nothing. I can't think of anything that they've gone out of their way this far ahead to allude to things. You know, with like the hometown booking and the graphics and the trying to tell people to read between the lines.
Big G is saying Sting, but no, Sting was a complete and total surprise
Yeah, he just showed up in the balcony
at
at
Winter
the
is Coming.
Bailey place.
Again, well, I mean, Sting also, I wonder how Sting would be treated in today's world where they actually have audiences because he was during pandemic time, but this is quite literally the same treatment they gave Punk, almost done the exact same way, which is letting all third party sources report that it's her or it's that person, putting out the graphic, and then putting enough. Scott George, Danhausen was a complete surprise. Danhausen was a complete surprise. But you put out, I mean, they're counting on the they're counting on her to sell out TD. You know, that's a close to 20,000 seat arena. They're counting on her to sell it out without ever actually saying her name. They're This is literally the same treatment as Punk, except she doesn't even have a Rampage. She's doing this on a Dynamite. Like she's getting their main show. I think this is as big of a deal for them as it is as anything they've done.
Is that and that's before Revolution or after Revolution? I forget when
That's
Revolution
after
is.
Revolution.
Is it the show after, like that week after?
Yeah,
Or,
that is the week after Revolution.
Mm.
Um,
I'm wondering.
no, it's 2 weeks after Revolution because Revolution's
Okay.
in February, right?
No, it's in March.
Is it? I don't remember the date because it's like right in the beginning.
Yeah, you have until March to make to.
Okay,
learn.
yeah. So yeah, no, it is. Then it's the week after.
Yeah. So I wonder if they have her show up at Revolution, or
No, I think
Really?
this is solely. I think the first time you see her
Mhm.
will be the beginning of Dynamite. I literally think they're running the same of the Punk playbook. You're
Yeah.
not gonna you're unless they feel like they're struggling to sell tickets to not sell tickets, but sell buys or tickets. Well, they're not struggling selling tickets because they're sold out for Revolution. So unless they figure they're struggling to sell buys, there's no reason. But they're not going to struggle to sell buys. It's Sting's last match.
Yeah.
You're going to get people who don't normally even watch buying just for Sting's last match. So they're literally, this is the Punk playbook. You announce it without announcing it. People in AEW have pretty much said it without saying it. If you follow their people along, Sean Dean, Will Washington, those all guys have all put out something that basically says it. Again, they say it in their own graphic with the Boston thing. And this is going to be a night basically about her, which is huge. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. Like, listen, AEW's main complaint a lot of people have had about AEW for the first 5 years of its existence has been its women's division, and they've been getting better over time, but it's and so people have said, well, they brought in Athena. Now she's in ROH. They brought in Taya. Where is she? They brought in Saraya. Saraya was supposed to change it all. I think Saraya ran into a problem of she couldn't wrestle as much as they thought she could, like just near the amount of matches, which changes how big of an impact you can have. So like I can't compare Mercedes to these other wrestlers in terms of the impact she's gonna have because they're gonna be spending so much money on her. I mean, she's getting paid. you're not going to spend that much money and not put her on TV regularly. And she also quit WWE over poor women's booking. I know it
So
had specifically to do with her tag title, but she very much cared about the division. So she's not going to sit silent. You're not going to piss off someone who you've paid that much money. I think this is a huge step for the women's division.
on on paper, it will be until it plays out, and we can see the path and the story and the storylines play out as far as what they have in store for people. But no, I'm
But we've seen
optimistic.
steady improvement in the division anyway. They're getting 2 matches on Collision weekly now, at least 2 back-to-back weeks. There's like 3 or 4 stories going on simultaneously.
Yeah,
You
I
have
mean,
Deanna, now you have Tony, you have rumors of Camille coming in, but and then you have Mercedes.
yeah, and
Mercedes, who is one of the biggest stars in all of wrestling, not just women, just one of the biggest stars in all of wrestling. So I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just an optimist who likes to cheer for the future, but I can't fathom bringing her in to keep the status quo, I guess is my thought on that.
yeah, and I hope that's true. I mean, it looks like Tony is keeping his word about really putting emphasis on the women's division in 24. So no
Yeah, I
complaints.
mean,
I'm happy so far.
yeah, of course she's been trolling the whole time with all her teases of where she is and where she's not, which clearly
Sure.
she just likes to keep people talking. But yeah, I mean, and again, before he signed off, and said it has been spoiled that she signed, and they've spoiled it themselves. I don't care what anyone says. That graphic gives it away. Um, so I'm like I said, I'm very interested. I think there's not many wrestlers, men or women out there that I'm like, okay, if a company signs them, that's a big deal. Now it's a bigger deal for her going to AEW than if she had went back to WWE because she'd been there. She kind of was already there. This is a step up for AEW in terms of the amount of money, the treatment, the time. It's fascinating, and she's crossover. I mean, she's been on The Mandalorian. She wants to do other acting. That's something that I think other wrestlers are going to want to get into. So if you can view, I think the biggest knock AEW's always had, not always, but I think one of the biggest knocks are just how do I want to say this? When comparing WWE to AEW, one of the positives for WWE over AEW was that if you were a woman who wanted to act, or even a male, if you were either one, but if you wanted to act, you had to go to WWE was your better bet. They had the pre-existing relationships, they had that whole pipeline. I'm not saying one wrestler makes or breaks, but it wouldn't hurt to have someone like Mercedes come in and help establish those relationships where now you can have a woman. Yeah, now you can have a wrestler, not just one. You can have a wrestler make contacts with the entertainment industry, so that other people can say, "Well, if I go to AEW, they now have the contact, so I can go act there too." It just changes how they'll be looked at by free agent. I mean, maybe it won't. Maybe she's such a unique case that no one will change anything. But I just think, you know, I don't know. I think it's an interesting way of looking at things. And that's why I think she's a game. Like I said, that's why. But also, I just think someone's a game changer when, by all description, she's getting paid a lot of money, and that they're rolling out the red carpet for this. The only other person they've done that for is Punk, and for better or worse, Punk changed the company. I mean, Punk was before all the BS. The highest of highs was when he just right after he signed. I mean, you just had good thing after good thing after good thing, and it was all rolling well until things went bad. So to me, it says something that this is the only other um sorry, AEW released an updated graphic with just certain wrestlers, and it has Orange Cassidy standing under a streetlight. I don't know, it's just the biggest thing that she's the the biggest. I don't know. Yeah, apparently I'm on the island here, and you don't think it's as big of a deal as I do.
maybe it's because it's been talked about so long now, and it's been a couple weeks now where everyone kept saying, "Oh, she's AEW. She comes to AEW." We thought that she might be showing up a couple weeks ago. I feel like it's just like it's been built up so much now that for me, it's maybe not as exciting now because it's been a couple of weeks of this. And I mean, they talked about how they've kind of had to alter timelines and things like that because of you know coordinating when they wanted to have her debut due to a random things in their control and things not in their control.
Yeah,
So
apparently her injury took longer to heal than I think I
yeah.
expected.
So I think
Um,
it's just all the forecast of it was so far out that of where she didn't land that it took away the initial like pop of, oh my gosh, like she's actually gonna come over here and change AEW.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, she like, I get where I mean, I get what you're saying that they did. It has been talked about a lot. I think with the reason I'm where I'm at with it is just the fact that they are truly rolling out the red carpet for it.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't feel the same if they were just like, "Hey, come watch Dynamite in Spokane, Washington on the 13th." If things, there's gonna be a lot of money thrown around or something. Like, then I would have been like, "All right, you're not." This is literally the same treatment as Punk, and I think this is the first we've seen just to the extent they're willing to go for it. Um, that's where I guess it's sticking out to me is that like she is getting his treatment, and that's significant. I think another reason it's significant to me is because he is the only reason he's the only other one I should say that got that treatment. So I think that's what's sticking out to me too is that it's just the two of them. Now I don't know if there's what the deal is with Okada. If Okada comes in and gets his own Rainmaker Dynamite, it's raining Dynamite or something, I might be like, well, this is a little less special then. But if it really is just like her and Punk, that's a high level. That's a high level of treating someone.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about something we do know for certain?
What's that?
The outcome of the first match tonight and what role that plays in Revolution.
I mean, I guess we can move on. Like I said, I thought, to me, I thought this was a big deal. You seem to not be high on it. We're missing a third, so I thought it would be a bigger deal, and I read it wrong. But she to me, this is what change. This is a change that we'll see. So,
I hope so.
all right, yeah. I mean, I just feel like you don't pay this kind of money. You don't give an entire Dynamite episode to a person coming in who's historically uh very vocal about things. You don't do that to not to keep the status quo. I guess that's my opinion on it. You don't pay someone this much for status quo
No,
because then
yeah,
you're
you
just
hope your
throwing.
return is far greater than what your investment is. So
So, all right. I mean, like I said, that was where I was coming in from, and I just thought like, hey, you're talking about money, events, things they have. They're literally counting on her to sell it an entire arena. They've never done that. Um, they've only really done that one other time. Like that to me is just like wow. And then that would also guarantee she's going to be on TV. Now, I guess the question is it always just going to be her and then you lose a segment, or is it going to be her and a segment? Because that would guarantee you a lot more women on TV if it's her segment and then another segment. Which is why I would keep her away from the title for a while because then you'll have to focus on your title, and then you have her as well. So you'll guaranteed to get multiple segments. If you keep them separate. And I don't think she goes for the title right away. I don't think you have Deanna come in, go right for it. Then you have Mercedes come in and go right for it. And I don't think Mercedes has to. I think they had Deanna go right for it because they had to prove to people who are unfamiliar with Deanna what she's worth versus Mercedes that they're saying like, you know what she's worth. We're showing it just by what we're doing. you coming in, or well, so we'll see. I like I said, I just know based on the reactions tonight, it's a big deal to most people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
it got it as soon as they announced it. That's basically all I saw for the rest of the night. Even when other stuff was going on. I mean, Christ, there wasn't even that much anger for Jericho Takeshita because everyone was focused on Mercedes Moné. So to me, that was a gauge of like it's a really big deal to people.
oh, Jericho. I have thoughts on that
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. So we'll see if we get joined by our third. If I don't know if this is a bit or not. This is kind of catching me off guard. So we start Dynamite. Our first match is Hangman Adam Page versus Shane Swerve Strickland in a number one contenders match. Now, were they ranked 1 and 2 or were they tied at 1? Because there was some debate on that online.
I mean, you're the rankings guy.
Yeah,
I
but
thought,
like,
I thought Heyman was 1.
yeah, but so was so my question though is like, was she? But was Swerve? If Swerve was 2,
Mm-hmm.
why? Yeah, so it was 1 and 2, but I guess the question was, I saw it asked online, and it's a fair question. If Swerve is so, let me go through the match, and I'll get to this. Hangman and Swerve have a great match. Very, very physical. I'll let you call out some spots if you want to. It ends up going at the last second. It looks like Swerve's going to win, and it goes to the time limit draw, which I think everyone kind of saw coming because I think everyone saw um, a triple threat coming, and then almost, but you could hear the crowd was very upset. So I was like, I don't know if they're going to stick with this. And Swerve gets on the mic saying like this isn't gonna stand. Give me 5 more minutes. And Hangman in a very heelish move says, absolutely not. You're not getting you had to beat me to get the title shot. So too bad. Tony Schiavone interrupts and says, no, I'm hearing from the back that that's not the end of this. It's you versus Swerve versus Samoa Joe at Revolution, triple threat for the title. So that's where we are. So my question we'll go back to my question, then we get to the match. Per the rankings of last week, Swerve, I think Hangman and Swerve are switching positions over who was 1 and 2. Last week it was Swerve was 1 and Hangman was 2. So why did Swerve have to beat Hangman?
Well, Heyman was 1. Was it?
No, I'm the one I'm seeing has Swerve as 1.
That's a good question because I thought from how I forgot what the rankings were, and based on how they told the story tonight, it sounded like Heyman was number 1 to begin with. So, good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm pulling up the ones from January 31st, off the AEW website, and it has Swerve and then Hangman. So were they just tied at 1? Which would have made sense for their records. They had same record.
I don't know, but again, not what they said in the ring at the end.
That's what that's like.
So, yeah,
This is my I like rankings, but this is my fear is if you're gonna depend on these to be these logical ways of developing storylines and building out feuds, you have to clear stuff like that up because it did get people.
Was Swerve undefeated up until
Yes,
was
so was Hangman.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen, they had the same record. That was the only thing. So they were both, I think, 3-0 since the rankings came back. But I don't understand why. So I guess that the argument would be that Copeland's undefeated too. He was going for TNT, but I guess he could have moved up to. See, that's a whole other thing is that they don't have clearly set divisions, so you're trying to figure out who's targeting who. But an argument could be made that if in order for I guess what they're getting at, and I'm literally what it took me till right now to think this through. I guess what they're getting at is that Hangman hates Swerve so much that that he was okay not getting the title shot himself because Copeland would get it because neither one of those would have a win.
Mm.
And then that was okay because it prevented Swerve. Like that's the only
Sure.
way this logic works. I
Maybe, yeah.
I would love for them to explain. I don't usually need things spelled out for me, but I think that's one of the times I do need that kind of spelled out a little bit because
This
it
sounds
did
like
kind
I'm
of
sure they probably recorded some kind of backstage, you know, little segment they'll play somewhere online or something.
yeah, because that's the only thing.
Mhm.
So before I get to my thoughts, what are your thoughts on the match?
Well, I thought that. I mean, I was wondering how they were going to top their past two matches and how personal it has gotten between them. Whether it's invading someone's house or drinking someone's blood. I would try to figure out how they're going to top that. Um, I From the very start, I liked the fact that they showed both the guy coming through and backstage up to the ramp. It gave it more of a boxing MMA type of fight feel, like a big prize fight feel. So I liked that presentation. It was interesting to kind of see Swerve was really just out wrestling Heyman initially, while Heyman was just brawling. It felt like, and I'm trying to think some of the spots. The barricade spot where they're both staying there, bouncing on the barricade, and then Heyman hit Swerve with a DDT on the barricade. One spot that I enjoyed. Um, I liked that Nana didn't really interfere in the match. He helped Swerve out like a manager should, but didn't necessarily interfere. Um, I liked, especially when he did the Swerve dance to help like motivate Swerve to get back in the ring at 9. I thought that popped me a little bit there. Um, and then Swerve hitting that buckshot. I thought he had a really nice buckshot. He hit Heyman with. Uh,
Yeah,
other than
okay,
that,
he did.
at the end, no. I know Heyman kind of like didn't want to give the extra 5 minutes because he hated Swerve that much, and some people were wondering if it was like almost like a double turn, or if Heyman was just really that angry and desperate to keep Swerve away from the title that he'll do anything and everything. So yeah, let me know I don't know. You can tell me your thoughts on the match, and then what you think of Heyman and his character now that he's especially in this feud.
So it was a very physical match, which I liked, and you saw Swerve use a couple of Hangman's moves, which was very nice. The dead eye through the table was a very particularly violent move, and you're right, the buckshots they were hitting on each other. The ending one, which were not the ending one, the one where Swerve put his foot on the rope when Swerve did the complete flip over for it, great sell. But to me, as always, this is about the story. And they clearly did what a double turn in this match, which was surprising. I didn't think they were going to turn Hangman, where Hangman is coming out of this more heel and Swerve is coming out of his face. Now, part of that is the announcers were not hiding the fact that Swerve was the one getting the cheers in the match. I mean, he was over, and this wasn't a hometown crowd over anymore. He's just the guy people want to see win. So you had Hangman getting angrier. You had Hangman accusing Swerve of cheating when he wasn't cheating. Like when Swerve put his foot on the rope after that buckshot, Hangman accused Nana of doing it, but Nana didn't do it. That was just Swerve with good ring awareness. You had Hangman assault Nana with the chair for basically no reason. Um, you had Hangman willing to go for the count out victory, which listen is a smart way of doing it. I don't know why more faces don't do it, but you know,
It's almost like
it's still not.
he's been driven kind of like mad by everything, by this obsession.
Yes, I think that's the story I think that's the story they're telling. And then of course you have the end where he refused to give 5 more minutes and he did it with a smile and how pissed he was. His reaction was a heel reaction of like he didn't beat me, he didn't like it's over. Like that was a typical heel reaction. So they definitely did that. Um so this was like I said, I love this story. I thought this was as good of a match as you could get. I'm glad like while it was a draw, I'm glad they there was more mystery behind it. It wasn't a straightforward draw. It was when Swerve said 5 more minutes, everyone, including myself, naturally assumed okay, Hangman's going to say yes, and Swerve's somehow gonna win or hang. Like, I didn't know what was gonna happen in those 5 minutes, but I naturally assumed those 5 minutes were going to happen. So for Hangman to pull an MJF essentially and say no, it's just hysterical. Like, it's great booking, hysterical. It's great, but I love it. I'm actually kind of excited for this version of Hangman. It's something we haven't gotten in AEW yet. We've kind of gotten the down and out cowboy a lot. We've never gotten like dickhead heel Hangman. So that's exciting. So that, and then we go right from this match to Samoa Joe. He's in the back and he looks pissed. And when he talks, he is pissed. And there's a lot of logic behind what he says. Neither one of them won, so why do they deserve to be in the ring with him? This isn't what this is about. This is bullshit. All that jazz. I love this because Samoa Joe is not a chicken shit heel. He is a I will kick your ass heel. But he's also a heel who recognizes that he has a very big chance of losing his title in a triple threat. Like as much as he's not chicken shit, he's not afraid to cheat and he's not afraid to do what it takes to keep his title. And in his case, a triple threat is the worst case scenario, especially against these two guys who he one on one he'd struggle, let alone in a triple threat. So I love this. Any thoughts on Swerve's not Swerve's Samoa Joe's interview?
No, I think Samoa Joe's reaction was, you know, what it should be. I mean, you're a champion. You're expecting to fight one guy, and you have two people who can't beat one another. So, but again, he's a fighting champion, and I kind of hope that he retains and that Heyman and Swerve just toss each other. But also at the same time, I want Heyman and Swerve to like have some space and be kind of take some time apart from one another.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously, I think the match revolution is going to be the end of Hangman and Swerve for a while. I think that's going to be the two of them, the end of their story for a bit. And I will get, we're still a couple weeks out, so maybe my opinion will change when we get there. But I'm of the opinion Swerve wins, gets the belt, and I think you're going to see a Hangman heel turn that takes him away from Swerve. And I'm very curious where it goes because also his heel turn is not like the Bucks heel turn, which we'll talk about later. So I don't see a natural progression to him back to their side. Now maybe because they could walk up to him and be like, "Hey man, you were screwed. And if you had been around with us, we're EVPs, we wouldn't have let that happen." Like I could see that being the route he goes. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting idea. I don't know where they're going to go with Hangman after this because I didn't see the heel turn coming, and not that I think it's bad. I just he was so over as a face. It was hard for me to think they were going to pull the trigger on this. So it'll be interesting. We move on from Hangman and Swerve and Samoa Joe to Red Velvet versus Tony Storm. Deonna Purrazzo walks out for commentary, and that's important later on. You have Red Velvet and Tony Storm have a pretty decent match. I think Storm looked strong. She dominated a lot of it, but they let Red Velvet have her offense and they let her survive a couple things I didn't think they'd let her survive, which I think was just as big of a deal as anything. The fact that she didn't go down easily. So Tony Storm wins with so Tony Storm gets an ankle lock on Red Velvet, and Tony Storm wins with that ankle lock, and then she won't let go of that ankle lock. And you hear Deanna on commentary being like, "Is she looking at me? Is she looking at me?" It was like a very poignant Tony Storm staring down Deanna as she held the ankle lock, and of course, like a heel does, she held it in too long. So as a face does, Deanna gets up and walks in. It's like, "Hey, I'll let go of this ankle lock," and Tony does something I have never seen in a pro wrestling ring before, where she like rubs her face up each side of Deanna, which was interesting. And then Deanna kind of pushes her away, which causes Luther to interfere because Luther's like, "You don't touch Tony." Like he was very mad that Deanna even deigned to touch Tony. So they're clearly continuing their walk towards Revolution. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I almost thought Tony was. It almost looked like you were like sniffing or smelling her when she was at the end with Deanna. But the match itself with Red Velvet, yeah, you're right. Red Velvet has gotten some really good matches lately, and she's had some nice showings. And this was another one. So I like that they're kind of building her up, even in losses. She's really showing out, so that's good. Thought the match was a nice little start. They're really technical to start with like, switching headlocks back and forth. It's very technical. And the fact that I think it's fun that, Tony wins with the ankle lock, uh, you know, a submission hold where, Deanna has her submission finisher. Uh, so, I thought it was a good match and a good showing for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing I'm gonna so she's saying she thought Tony kissed her for a second there. So did I, but that GIF has made it so much on my timeline that I've looked at it a few times, and she definitely doesn't kiss her. It's like a weird like nose rub thing. I've never
Yeah.
seen anything like it.
Again, I
Um,
thought she was like sniffing her. Like,
yeah, that's what it kind of like looked like, but I'd never seen it like that close on both sides. It was just a very unnatural movement, but it's also very fitting for um, Tony Storm. I will say, I liked Deanna on commentary. I thought she was very good because she's out of her mind. She's a
Mhm.
lunatic. Like, I like how straightforward Deanna's playing it of like, I know this woman. We were friends. She's clearly lost her mind. And Tony Schiavone now, who's been on like the weird end of Tony Storm's antics because basically Tony Storm insults Schiavone every time she's on commentary because she confuses him with Riccaboni. Um, being like, yeah, no, she's crazy. So I really enjoy that. Like Deanna not buying into this timeless gimmick.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I would say that something that was kind of fun was when they mentioned on commentary how, after she loses a title, she snaps and becomes someone different. Like when lost the title and she ended up becoming timeless. So I'm interested to see if she loses the title, what incarnation she'll come back as now. Like, will she come back as old Tony? Will she be a different era of Tony?
Yeah, well that so there's so I have a couple comments here. We'll go to that one first. The f- the Tony thing, she could if she loses the belt, she could delve even into more hysteria, which I'm very curious as to where that takes her. Uh, she could there's a thing where she just comes back completely normal and acts like nothing happened, with everyone else acknowledging it happened, but with little bit of Tonyism, like timeless Tonyisms
Mhm.
around where, like, when she gets really upset, she says something into the timeless Tony voice. Luther's still there for some reason. We don't understand that. Like there's that story. There's also a story where she changes eras,
Yes.
which I think would be funny. Like she goes,
This it kind of reminds me of. Did you watch WandaVision?
I did.
It kind of has remind me of some of that, where like she breaks and she wants to be this different character, and she's that throwback character of like the perfect housewife, like, and Tony kind of the throwback wrestler of being a star, but then there's these little outbursts where the real her comes through still, and even when she becomes the real her, like she might still have flashbacks of being another character of herself. Uh, the parts of that show kind of reminds me of what Tony's doing a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. So I just think it'd be funny if like she loses. I mean, there's something to be said of what does she do if she wins because that only feeds her delusions that like this is who she is and where she's successful. So
Yeah, I think for the
what
story, I think it's better if she loses because I think it's the character. I think to see a character change or development from what we've gotten? Can you feel like it's
She
almost
becomes
runs force?
she becomes a 60s actress, but all of a sudden it's like the techno color, like the remember like when they first started coloring TVs? Like she
Mhm.
gets that kind of color saturation
There
and
you go.
she's in the like the Elvis Beach movies and stuff like that, Donnie and Marie, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, that would be an interesting like I'm kind of on board for her changing eras, but there's also the thing where she loses, Deanna knocks her straight, and then she becomes just Tony Storm again.
Mhm.
But she's got Luther still for some reason, and every time she gets upset, she slips into her timeless Tony gimmick. Because I don't think there's but the only thing is I don't think they're ready to give up on this.
Yeah.
I could see them changing eras. That I would absolutely see them doing because that's more of the it's different, but it's more of the same.
Yeah.
I don't see them giving up completely on the gimmick because it's just too much of a moneymaker for them. This is a hit. And there's still uh you know there's still fruit on the tree right here. Like you can do a lot. So I'm very curious to see where they go. Now I will my other point was so Deanna's on commentary. Part of the conversation we had earlier with Mercedes and part of the conversation with the women, which is part parcel why I wanted to bring that up early. One, just because it was for one something I really wanted to talk about. I usually don't care what order that was just something for whatever reason in my head I wanted to discuss. But two, because I thought it was relevant to this story, which is up until recently, I know every woman who's come in has been treated with a certain amount of importance, but they all historically, Soraya is her own unique thing. I can't like again. I think they ran into just based on the lack of wrestling that she's doing. I think they ran into the fact that they weren't sure how much she could wrestle, and it's less than they hoped for. So they're saving her for select matches. Um, but I think overall, like you had Athena come in, you had Taya come in, you had I'm trying to think of any of their other signings. Uh, who were some of their other signings? Athena, Taya. I don't really have that many signings. That's a whole other issue. Um, Tony initially. Well, Tony's so put Tony. I'll take Athena, Taya, Tony initially. Because Tony was a huge signing. I just forget because she's actually a champion right now. But they come in. Athena and Taya got like a 2 week story build to Jade, and then they were tossed aside. But really was like the quickest um build you could get for that match, and there was no real heat there, and it was just kind of like Jade was taking on every new contender, so they were walking into Jade's story. That wasn't their story, that was Jade's,
Mhm.
and they were walking into it. There were time now Athena had a chance later on that I thought would have been better, but they didn't play it out. Tony walked in and she was treated like a big deal, but they had zero story for her. Like they just kind of are like, "You're here, have fun." Deanna comes in treated like a huge deal and given a 6 week story that isn't just Tony's story, it's Deanna's because this is an intimate story between the two of them. Deanna is wrestling throughout the whole time. She's getting promo and commentary time. Like they're fully building her. This isn't a 2 week turnaround with Jade. To me, this is one of the best introductions of the women they've done ever, where they've actually made the person who came in feel like a big deal based on what they've done and not what we knew about the person. That makes like I think we knew Athena, Taya, and Tony were big deals because of what they did in the past, not what AEW did with them right away. Whereas I think Deanna, they're doing a good job of making her feel important within AEW. Does that make sense to you? I mean, you don't have to agree, but does it at least make sense what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I think because Diana felt like she made her like the biggest name of herself really from Impact, I think, and Impact doesn't have the eyeballs and isn't as easily visible and seeing as other promotions out there, so maybe that's why. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from, definitely.
Which was part of my Mercedes talk was you have Deanna come in, and I feel like suddenly she's the first one, do I feel like had a really good build, and now you have Mercedes getting her own TV show, own episode of TV, I should say. It's the first time where there's been two back-to-back women's things where at least simultaneously I'm like, you two are doing okay. You know what you're getting done. Again, maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm just reading what I want to read because I'm an optimist and I want to enjoy these things. But like to me, it just reads as you finally like when people say they again they don't do anything right with the women. This feels like for the first time ever that they're actually taking positive steps. Just my humble opinion. Let me see where we're at.
Well, we're at the part where we say hello, Jesse Ozog.
That's the part where you're at, not where I'm
Oh,
at.
well, I'm going to say hello, Jesse Ozog, because I'm a nice person, and Ryan doesn't
Okay.
care about Jesse or anyone else in
No,
the chat.
so then we get to Renee Paquette. She's interviewing Orange Cassidy with Trent Barretto and Rocky Romero, talking about Orange having to wrestle Ishii on Saturday, which is just insane. I don't get it. Not in a bad way. I don't get it in a good way, like how that came about or how that's a thing. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really curious to see how Ishii sells those just brutal kicks that Orange can give. I mean, those things are devastating.
Well, that and like Orange trying to do the orange punch on the man who has no neck and his head is like just a boulder on shoulders. I mean, I don't know if you're going to hurt him with that orange punch.
That's true.
I mean, so
As much
compact.
as he is like just it's like he took a full size man and went. "Hmm." The interesting thing here is that they said Chuck Taylor is in the arena getting a medical exam, and they were going to go check on him. But then Renee really wanted to do the hands in thing, so she called them all back, and you could tell she kind of like she played dorky real well here because she kind of came off a little dorky, and it was so well done. And she counted them off, which I've never heard them count off before. And then she gave Rocky and Trent high fives. Love that whole thing. I think Renee did this marvelously.
It's been like, I feel like it's been a building thing from like, from her earlier one-on-one interviews with Orange, where Orange would be like very, nonchalant or just kind of like, his, I'm so tired or I hurt, or they just have a very casual backstage interview. And now Renee had gotten into this whole best friends thing of, high five, like doing the hands in thing and just being like awkward with the rest of them during the backstage interview segment. But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was kind of hoping that a part of me was just hoping that maybe Danhausen was taking out Chuck E. T. I want to see Danhausen used somehow. Like he was.
He's going heel based on everything they're doing with him. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that would have been hilarious if Danhausen was the one taking out Chuck E. T. Because we'll skip ahead a little bit just to and then we'll go on. We'll then take commercial, but we'll at some point it was after what was it after the it was after the Blackpool Combat Club match. You had Tony Schiavone go, something's going on in the back. We got to go to the back. Something that felt straight out of 1996. And oh no, I'm sorry, it was Excalibur and Tony. So it still felt like 1996. You go to the back and you have the United Kingdom just post beat down of Chuck because my assumption is Chuck is still legitimately hurt.
Undisputed Kingdom.
What did I call him? United Kingdom?
Yeah, I was like, that's not.
Well, they are. Is there any English in there? No, there's not. All right. Well, Undisputed Kingdom, post beatdown, and you have what did Adam Cole say? Get better, Chuck. Get well, Chuck, or something like heal up. Get well soon. I think is what he said. Get well soon, Chuck. Just so devious and devilish. I quite enjoyed it. Any thoughts on this segment?
No, I mean, Adam Cole's great. It's a great use of him while he's unable to perform physically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To Scott George's question, where are the gun bang scissor gang club with all the stuff with the UE happening? Because they're supposed to have like a feud. I agree, but they do seem to want to keep those two stories apart. You have Orange Cassidy and the best friends with the UE, and then you have the Scissor Gun Bang Bang with the UE. And so I
I'm
don't
saying
know.
the UE. Now you're calling them United Empire.
Well, you Undisputed Era. Undisputed Kingdom. Oh, UK. Jesus Christ. I'm reading Undisputed Era because of Scott's comment.
Oh, okay.
So UK, sorry, which is why it's called it United Kingdom. When you have the UK, you have they're trying to keep them separate. The UK versus UK has two feuds, but they don't have a feud that's intercrossing, which I'm okay with at the moment.
And I feel like the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, they're mainly over on Collision right now, right?
They are colliders.
They're colliding with the House of Black and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They are colliders. They aren't gonna give up. They aren't gonna stop. They're gonna work hard.
Who's Kelly Rowland?
Yeah, who's Kelly Rowland? Are you asking?
Yeah. Who's Kelly Rowland in this scenario?
Taven. Oh no, that's the gun. No, the guns and the scissor bang bangs are
Yeah.
Colton.
Yeah. Michelle.
Yeah,
What
Colton.
about Michelle?
See, I just put Michelle. Daddy ass.
Really?
No, Max. Max
So
and Colton are Michelle and Kelly.
Is Bowens or Jay White Beyonce then?
Well, I'm putting. See, this is the problem. There's too many, so I'm
Yeah.
putting Bowens, Jay White, Daddy Ass, and Austin as your Beyonce. Like they're the main players.
I am Beyonce always.
Yeah, and then Max and Colton are your sides.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't remember the rest of the Destiny Child from back in the day.
I think that's all they got. So, all right. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back. Apparently, I'm going to do the rules like we do on Saturday, which is you're going to hear me go through this. Here we go.
Every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Brokast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
If you like your music heavy, then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway.
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums,
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Your Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast with two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Your Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
And we are back. I actually managed to do it. So we're back. So before I continue going over Dynamite, let me go over a little bit of our housekeeping. Please follow us on all socials at Mark Order Pod. Please like and subscribe on whatever format you're either watching or listening to this on. I'm assuming if you're watching, it's only YouTube. So please subscribe to our YouTube. I'd really like to bump those numbers up. If you're on Spotify or any other source, please like, subscribe, do all that fancy stuff. Really makes that guy algorithm happy. And if you want to throw us a little bit of the cheddar, but look good doing it, because that's just as important. Go to Pro Wrestling Tees/Mark Order Pod. That's Pro Wrestling Tees.com. Sorry, ProWrestlingTees.com/Mark Order Pod. That's our Pro Wrestling Tees shirt store where you can buy one of 4 shirts. If you're like, Joe is just better than I am. Joe's got them up. See these fancy shirts up here? If you're watching, if you're listening, I can't help you. But we have some fancy shirts. So please go support us. Buy one of these fancy shirts. You have our symbol. Then you have our words front and back-ish. Then you have a small pocket word with the back thing. I'm not really good at describing. This is why I did not get into clothing. Again, my only thing that says champion. I'm not a clothing guy. If you're like, I don't remember where to go, and even though you've said it 3 times, it's a lot of typing, just go to our socials, find our link tree, click on the link tree, and it'll take you there. And then it'll take you all the other places you can like and subscribe for us. So like it's the whole thing. I mean, we made it easy for you. I think we made it pretty easy. Right, Joe?
I hope so. I mean, I bought a shirt one time, so and I followed the Mark Order podcast at one point. So if I can do it,
if Joe can do it, well, now I'm thinking of Rocky 4. If I can change, and you can change, and this whole world can change.
Wow, we really went with the whole Rocky theme. After
A
the
couple
whole
years
war.
later,
Yeah,
that wall came down.
hmm
Coincidence? I think not.
Some people might think Rocky sucks, but not us.
I know we're not the podcast for this, but man, talk about backing yourself up into a corner with booking decisions. There is no good way out of that. I mean,
Is there a good way out of this CMLL invasion?
Yeah, you have matches apparently like the one tonight, which was awesome. So you had Blackpool Combat Club, which featured Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and John Moxley versus, how do you say this?
Which one? I'm not great at the luchador.
Hechicero?
Yeah, Hechicero. Yeah.
Mascara Dorado and Volador Jr. 6-man match, trios match, I would say, because especially with luchos, it would be more accurate. Fucking wild. That's all I can really say. I mean, there was just things going on all over the place. You had insane lucha moves. You had strongman moves from Claudio. You had some great technical wrestling again, following up on their match from the weekend between Danielson and Hechicero, or however he says it. And I apologize. I don't speak English that well, so something else is just going to be brutal. As I get made fun of regularly here for saying whom and boon. So bear with me.
And those are easy words to say.
Exactly. So this was just wild. But I really enjoyed the match. Now, the funny thing is, there is a story here. It's crazy. I mean, it's been built up basically over a week. But apparently, AEW and CMLL have a partnership, and I think the BCC is going to be going down there at some point. Or at least maybe if it's not the BCC, some members of AEW will be. So CMLL was in the crowd, got upset. You had one match and a follow-up match. This was your follow-up. And even though the BCC won, I think CMLL wrestlers ended up looking very good, like looking incredible. And it's okay because I have a feeling the AEW guys are going to take a loss down in Mexico. Not to mention, if you're CMLL, you lost to Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli. They didn't put out like at the end of the match, you have like a standoff because more CMLL guys come out, so you have to be saved by Christopher Daniels, Matt Sydal, and 2.0. It's not like you lost to those guys. You lost to the BCC. Like, that's as legitimate as it gets. What did you think of the match and all that's going on?
I love when they have matches like this where it's just such a contrast between styles of, the CMLL, the luchador style, the fast paced jumping, flipping. It's just so different than what the BCC style is for the most part. And Hishishiro, I think he really became, in my eyes, a huge star in the mainstream with the American audience because of the matches he's had last week and tonight. I mean, he's really shown that, like, yeah, he's a technical wrestler to a T. And I'm agreeing with you that I think AEW wrestlers go down there, they lose. I'm hoping that one of the BCC members takes the pinfall to really help get that win back for CMLL down there. I think that'd mean more for them to pin one of them instead of pinning, Cool Hand Ange or Christopher Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big. I'm with you. I think it'd be nice to see them return the favor. But either way, CMLL is not coming out of this looking poorly because this is about as good as you can look in a loss, is I guess the way I want to say. I mean, and it ended on a low blow. So it wasn't even like the BCC got to win clean. Like, they cheated. So it really made the CMLL guys and Hishishiro, you're like you said, he's become a star and he ends up looking like a stud in all this because I know Danielson beat him.
Oh yeah, but that match. Ooh.
Well, not only that match, but it also it's one of those things where, like, whenever they wrestle, I mean, it's only been twice I've seen it, but their match and then tonight, it really seems like Hishishiro has Danielson's number and that Danielson only was able to luckily win his match. Like, it doesn't feel like Danielson was the better wrestler. It just feels like he kind of eked out a victory, which is very generous of Danielson to do. He doesn't have to do that at this point in his career. So it, very nice for him to do that. So I love all of this, and I would like to see a continuing partnership. I'm not one of those people. Like, I don't watch I don't watch CMLL. I don't watch I only watch occasional New Japan. But I'm okay when these guys walk into AEW to have a match and do their stuff because they're doing it on TV. They're not doing it on pay-per-views, and there's usually enough surrounding it. And you telling me why these guys are important that I can make it work. So I'm all for this. I know there's some matches planned for Rampage, but they're like with Sydal versus Mystico, I think is one planned for Rampage. I don't know what else is. That should be a good match, just not. Neither guy was in this one, so we'll see. We'll see if they go back down. Jesse Ozog was saying he expected the BCC to lose. I don't know if I said that already. I think it's a home versus home thing. I think they're each going to get their win in their respective.
You said home. You said home twice.
I can't help it. So then, we go and you had the Chuck Taylor thing, which we talked about, and you had Tony's big announcement, which we spent the beginning of this talking about. So you move on to Chris Jericho versus Konosuke Takeshita. And this is a match that I feel like everybody did and didn't want. I say that because I think we've talked about it over the last couple of weeks. People are pretty done with Jericho at the moment. I think he needs to step away to get a character refresh, and I don't mean just for a couple of weeks. I mean a couple of months. Let him be missed. The heart grow. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. But people also wanted Takeshita to get his victory back. So I think this was If this match ended differently, people would have been furious. So you had a match. It wasn't bad. I don't think it was anything great, but it wasn't terrible. Jericho looked okay. Takeshita was amazing. So you had Will Hobbs out there, but then Sammy Guevara ran out and he hit Hobbs with a chair and it didn't work. Then he did a cutter by jumping off the steps and that did work. And then he hit Hobbs with a chair on the head and that seemed to do it. That put Hobbs over into the crowd. So then you have the match continue. I'm just trying to think what I want to say. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think of spots for you. But basically, the match ends because Don Callis hits Chris Jericho with a screwdriver. Takeshita gets him into pretty much the walls of Jericho. Whatever. I mean, the walls of Jericho is a Boston Crab. Gets him into a Boston Crab, but that's the walls of Jericho. And Jericho taps. So you have Takeshita get his win back, which is what everyone wanted. No one, I think people would have been furious if Takeshita took a second loss to Jericho. Like, what are we doing here? What do you think of the match?
Yeah, again, like we mentioned, I have Jericho fatigue, like a lot of people do. So I just kind of, on occasion, kind of glanced up to watch the match. The outcome was right. How we got to the outcome, I wasn't thrilled about. I wanted Takeshita to win, dominant or clean, and not have to rely on interference. I think he's a bigger deal than that, so he shouldn't have to rely on Callis to use a screwdriver to help him. If wouldn't Hobbs win over Jericho pretty clean and dominant, right?
Yes, it was.
I feel like they should have gave Takeshita that type of win. I think he needs it to really solidify himself over being that guy, that alpha. As far as spots go, I thought he always had a nice blue thunder bomb. It looks like Bryce pulled on the held up on the count of 3 for Jericho to pull his shoulder out late. But other than that, yeah, I mean it's what you expected, and I guess Sammy's still involved with the storyline, and it sounded like people were cheering for Sammy for once. So that's something for him to build on, maybe.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I don't know what's going on with my voice. They're running into that. They're still running into a little bit of that trouble with Sammy versus the crowd. I guess is a better way to say it. Is he a heel? Is he a face? They're obviously doing face right now, but what kind of face is he? But this is how you do it. You have him come out. You have him do a cool move, and you just have him fight. And that's where he's going to get over. He's not going to get over by his "this was my dream" or "I had a kid."
Yeah.
Stuff. No, not that people don't care, but they don't care about it from him. That only works for some people and only sometimes. And it's not that Sammy's inauthentic with it. It's just not who he is as in terms of a wrestler.
And plus,
I
again,
do want to laugh.
He's tied to Jericho right now still. So get him away from
and that's and it's really hard to say this is my dream and I had a kid when you had you like you said he's with Jericho and he's been such a heel with Jericho before. The kid thing would have worked as a face turn had they kept him heel for a while and he came back and said, I looked at my baby girl, I guess, in the eyes and I said, who do I want to be for you? And it's not that guy. That would have worked. I don't think it would have worked. But that's not what they did clearly. And he had too many flip-flops before then just let him keep him face for a while now, but don't let him wrestle. Just let him be a wrestler. And I think he'll do fine. I think he'll get over again as a wrestler.
It's a wild idea. We'll see if it works.
I'm crazy. It's crazy enough to work. Takeshita is obviously awesome, and I know people think he's been slowed down a bit, and he has. I truly, I'm not as everyone here is well aware, I'm not a scoopster. I get so many things wrong. There's no way I could be. But in my heart of hearts, well, we all know that part of this isn't heart of hearts. Part of this is just knowledge that Omega was supposed to be part of this storyline. I truly believe that it was supposed to be Takeshi and Omega. I know they've had matches before, but I think they were supposed to have more. Like I think that was supposed to be a story, and I think Takeshi was supposed to come out of this after having a couple more banger matches with Omega and people being like, I love this guy. So I that's where I get on the whole thing is that I think they expected him and Omega to have some fun matches, and it just didn't happen. And now you're trying to make do with Jericho, and now Sammy's back. Honestly, I would prefer to just see Sammy versus Takeshita. I think he would have had better matches, and I think that would have been better for both of them. Question to you is, where do you go with Takeshita now?
I don't know. Like we've already kind of pivoted from Kenny to Chris. That is a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, also I don't know if I said it before, but I'm going to point out again if I even said it before. Big G saying the head is apparently Hop's weak point is absolutely hilarious. I was like, what's your weak spot, son? My head. If you hit me with a chair in the head, I am going down.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if it didn't work. It's like you can hit him anywhere, but don't hit him in the head. It's just there is a wrestler like I forget who it is.
I feel like if you hit him in the nuts, he would go down.
That's why if I were him, I'd just wear like a really good cup. That's what I don't understand about any of these wrestlers.
Why they don't wear a cup?
Yeah. I understand they're not comfortable. I've had to wear them for sports before. They can get in the way. They can cut into your leg a little bit. I get it.
But it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, that low blow won't be as effective, baby. It'll still hurt a little bit. I mean,
Sure.
I don't know if you've ever been hitting the balls while wearing a cup. You still feel it.
Oh yeah, I've taken a ground ball into the
Yeah, I mean, what was I don't think mine was football, so I think it was a knee by accident.
Oh.
I think going to the ground, someone's knee just came up. But anyway, that's a weird conversation we don't have to get into. I just just see like a chair proof cup. And then we have clearly a very serious Tony Khan in our chat saying that Ryback is in all elite. I think you need to rework on the wording there, buddy. That's not the phrasing of it, but teach their own. So I mean, I think the whole Callis family, again, I will have said this probably for the 4th show in a row, and I don't care because I'm riding this train till the day I die. I want Kyle Fletcher to take another loss soon to Sammy. Let Sammy get a win. I want Callis to be furious with Kyle Fletcher, to be talking down to Kyle Fletcher, saying, "How dare you!" Like really being. And then I want out to walk Mark Davis and Will Ospreay.
So close.
So close to save Kyle Fletcher because, and I truly do mean save. I don't mean,
oi.
Don't mean I don't mean like turn on him because there's another story where they come down like they're going to save him and then they hurt. No, I want because I think it's going to be tough for Ospreay to come in as heel. I think it's always tough for a new guy to come in as heel. It's the same thing we should have had this conversation. We'll get back to it at the end because I forgot to ask you a question because I got kind of thrown off what we think Mercedes will do. But ignoring that for a second, I think anytime someone comes in to a company, it's extremely hard to do with heel. Like look at Adam Cole. Adam Cole's a perfect example. Came in, they immediately put him with the heel faction, and fans still cheered the hell out of him. It was just because you're new, you're exciting, you're fun. And eventually they'll boo you, or you'll be a heel because of whatever, but it's just very tough. I also think you then have the United Empire, I almost said United Kingdom again. You also have the United Empire versus the Callis family, and that's a fun feud. You have the Keston Ospreay, and then you have Hobbs and You have to get him a third. They need a third.
Who, the Callis family?
Yeah.
Now that they don't have Sammy.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? There's so many guys out there, and I don't mean this not, but there's a lot of guys in AEW that could probably use a little bit of whatever to go over
Mhm.
to them. You pick up a third, and then you have United Empire versus Hobbs and whoever his partner is versus the cat versus, and then you have Osprey versus the Catch. Like, that is a fun feud.
Mm-hmm. That'd be fun.
Like,
Yeah.
and you have the trios, so you can have the trios matches, but then you can have I'm literally selling myself on this, and I know it's not going to happen because no one books like me, but it is the most logical booking in my head to get everyone where they should be, and I think it would help the Keshta out majorly because the Keshta versus Osprey would just be
Mhm.
just some really good matches.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think they eventually jump Kyle Fletcher out eventually.
Yeah, and I think that seems like it's coming. So I'm really just hoping they invite but that the United Empire doesn't go with them. Like
Mhm.
I hope that they jump out Kyle Fletcher, who's clearly taking losses, and that the UE comes to his saving to save him, and then that's your feud. Because even after the Callis feud, you can turn Osprey heel instantly. But I don't think people want to boo Osprey. I'm not saying he's a bad heel. I just think he's so much fun. Like, he's a tough guy to boo. And with no Omega around to play the foil to him, to be the face against his heel, it's going to be even tougher. I think you're going to have to keep him face for a while. And I think just a matter of principle, that means you have to you have to get him away from Callis because Callis can't get cheered. So I think that's the tough spot there. I meant to ask. I'm going to do it now because what the hell? This is a wild show apparently, so we're going to go with the wild way. What is your first? Do you have Mercedes come in as face or heel? What's your first feud? What's your first match? What's your first feud?
I would like if she came in as a heel. She won't. She'll be a face, obviously. And people are going to cheer. But I would like her to do. I would like the introduction of how they come in, they get cheered, and then all of a sudden during a promo or something, they kind of like spin it, and all of a sudden like, oh, she's not coming in as a face. She's being like a a diva or like a I'm better than you typical type of a heel, or I deserve a shot at this or that, and I'm entitled to this. I would like to see that kind of heel from her. Yeah, I think I like her. I like her heel work better than her face work from her previous places she's been at. As far as a feud, though, I think it's going to be. I mean, I don't see her getting like a. I don't see them putting like a high tier person right way at her because one, you have to have someone who can eat losses, and two, you have to have someone who can kind of be a stopgap before the title. Because if she comes out and wants to win a championship, and someone comes out and says, "No, you can't come in here and demand championship matches." No, I've been here grinding for years, and you have to go through me. My pick has always been like it's the usual, like throw Nyla in there. She's big and she's always usually the first feed for people.
I mean, yes. Truthfully, now I will say she's doing some stuff in ROH, and she's been doing a very good job in ROH. I think ROH is great for her because letting her get that personality out that she has. That they don't let her use in AEW. But you're right, she is literally the first feud. Well, Jade used to be one of those, but Jade, if you feuded with Jade, you lost. If you feuded with Nyla, you won. So like it was. Big G says Taya as a match, sure. I agree with that as a one-off match because I thought about this too. You could do face versus face of Red Velvet versus Mercedes, and I only say that because similar styles and they dive around the ring a lot. Actually, why am I doing this way? I had it up and then I put it down because I'm a fool. I had the roster up and then I put the roster
How
down.
many more losses do you want Red Velvet to keep eating?
That was gonna be my. Though, see, I don't want her to go heel because that would be a good impetus for her to go heel, which is that she just keeps losing. You have obviously people like, and I know, I'm looking at you have an Abaddon, but I don't think that should be Mercedes first anything. You have Diamante, who I love. You have Kira Hogan. You have Layla Gray. You have all these wrestlers. So I guess first match is tough. I think Taya is actually a good call for a first match, as is Nyla for a first mini match feud. Obviously Willow's out there, but Willow is doing her thing with Chris Statlander, which is actually a story I'm very interested in because I'm not sure which one, but it feels like one of them is going heel. Big G with the Sky Blue is a great call.
Yep.
So you do have like the Willow Statlander storyline. One of the two of them could go heel, and I don't know which one it is. Probably Statlander because she's the one. Though there's a swerve in there. See, I don't think Willow was ready for heel yet. I think she's still too lovable. So that's a. But Willow, because of obviously the strong connections, you have Thunder Rosa out there.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
There's a story there where Thunder Rosa. There's a story with two AEW originals. Well, no, Thunder Rosa is not an original. You have a story with an AEW original and a story with Thunder Rosa being there for a while. It's the same story, but it works both ways.
Well, as part of the program, what about Britt?
If she's back wrestling, I think she's hurt.
Oh, is she still hurt?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm going to assume she is until she's back. If she's not, the best first feud.
Yeah. Okay, like, again,
hands down, I would.
Good promos. Yeah.
Hands down, if you tell me Willow is. Not Willow, sorry. Tell me Britt Baker. So I'm looking at her picture because I was going on the roster. If you tell me Britt Baker's healthy and can wrestle, 100% the best for first feud because she'll be heel. She has a natural reason to hate Mercedes. Good, can go with Mercedes on the mic. Would be a lot of fun in the ring. That is a perfect. So healthy, you nailed it. But assuming she's not healthy, I'm not opposed to a. See, the problem with the feuds I'm about to suggest. Well, I want Thunder Rosa to go heel. So to me, Thunder Rosa and Mercedes would be great because Thunder Rosa gets jealous that Mercedes is getting all the love of coming in, and Thunder Rosa is like, I came back from injury. I was your champion. You never gave me another title shot. What are we doing here? Like, this is BS. I think that's a fun story. There's also a story, and I think Ant said it last week, with Sheeta, the original, the standard bearer for a while. Like, who are you to walk in? Because I think that's what this first story, the first real feud, feels like it could be a, who were you to just walk in and think you're the best in this place? So you have a couple options. Again, I want Thunder Rosa to go heel. I just think they're kind of in need of that heel at the moment with Mercedes likely to be face. Again, Julia Hart, I don't know what's going on with her. I haven't seen her wrestle on the while. But I don't want, it's not that I don't want Mercedes to go after the TBS. I don't want her to start there. And I don't, so we kind of both think that Deanna's going to beat Tony, right? Like that's where we're going.
Yeah, I think that's safe.
Okay. Well, because the reason I asked that is if we both think Deanna's beating Tony, you do not want Mercedes to walk in and go after Deanna. Like that just doesn't make sense. Now Jesse's saying the women's roster always feels so small, just the same few people over a few months, then some rotate. That it does to a point. They've been getting better at it.
Yeah, they've had a lot more side stories. I mean, they have stories with Willow and Stat and what they're doing. They have with like Stokely and everything else, and they're pairing. You have the Outcast and Ruby, and with Saraya and Harley Cameron.
Truthfully, that's part of why I didn't name those. It had nothing to do with them not being around or people I didn't think could wrestle.
Yeah,
they're just in their own stories. So that do I like a Ruby Soho versus Mercedes match or feud? Yes, but Ruby's in a story. Anna Jay's kind of tied in with that story, and Anna Jay's would be a fine first match, but not a feud.
Mhm.
Saraya is tied in with that, and that would be a fun. Listen, Saraya versus Mercedes will be a fun feud at some point. I don't care what, because
You say that's a
shared
pay-per-view
tie.
match. Yeah, you save that
Yeah,
for
that's
pay-per-view.
it's a one-off, but it is a one-off match, but a feud. Because maybe not a one-off, but it definitely is a pay-per-view because they have shared um history and everything. You have Serena Deeb, who do you want her to lose the first feud? Then again, Serena will have been back for over a month and a half by the time Mercedes. We're assuming Mercedes can wrestle when she comes in because again, reports for injuries. Um, so by that time, Serena could take a loss because I don't want Serena losing too quickly. So yeah, Serena's a good feud. Big G suggesting Tony if Tony isn't champ, not right away. I mean, who am I? This is my opinion. I always feel bad when I'm like not right away. Like I know better. We're all equally booking here. In my mind, not right away because that'd be too tone. Like Mercedes is winning whatever her first feud is. Let's just be perfectly honest about that. So that would be 2 Tony losses in a row. Now there is something to be said that Tony just keeps going further and further into her descent, but I don't think so. However, that is absolutely a money feud on the table at some point.
Mhm.
Like you would like if that might be their biggest feud that they'll get eventually. And if hopefully Jamie Hayter gets healthy at some point, because then her back into things just changes. Really, I mean, it's a shame, but that's a big hole that's missing like that. You know, um, and of course, Deanna and Mercedes will have a feud at some point. This is what I mean with bringing her in. There's a lot of money matches. I'd love to see Athena get out of it at ROH, drop the title, come up, and become a real player in this division now. She has killed it in ROH. But she's done all she can do.
Did you really say money matches?
Oh, Jesus Christ, and I didn't even mean it. I'm punning accidentally now.
You have a problem, Ryan.
Honestly, it's the greatest problem in the world. I'm not upset. I am apparently punning by accident, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to live by this. I'd admit it if I did it on purpose, too, because I'd be very proud of it. I will say that is a pun I have made before, but
Yeah, it's a pretty low-hanging fruit of a pun.
It's the one I go for. I'm short. I'm not reaching. I'm not quite 6 feet. I'm not really reaching up that high. So yeah, there's a lot. Like I said, once we start talking about what to do with Osprey, because Osprey relates to me. Osprey is very tied into the Callis family, and so we start thinking about. I said Osprey comes in his face. Mercedes is coming in his face. We don't know if they have a Okada or not. I hope they do, but we don't know if they do. Big G saying this is an intervention. Listen, this is a poor way to do an intervention where I can run away. Like if you're doing an intervention, you better lock me down and sit me down so I can't go. Because I will run. Like the movie Mafia, run, Florist, run.
Oh, you'll run? So you say you'll run?
I'll run.
Like physically run?
Well, virtually.
Okay.
And then I made a joke about the movie Mafia. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't.
Oh, it's a spoof movie on mob movies.
Sure, makes sense.
I love it, but it was made in like the late 90s. Puntervention by Jesse Ozog.
Well done.
Wouldn't it be intervention pun?
Puntervention sounds like a convention for punters.
Now I'm picturing that. And then, the first ever puntervention. It's every punter that's ever been in that.
Your keynote speaker for this is Pat McAfee.
Oh my God, he would be too.
Jeff Fiegels.
God. People would go for him. So that's just some interesting, thoughts and words of thoughts and things and whatever before we get to our main event. I somehow closed out of a window I was in. I don't know how I do this. Our main event obviously is the big tag match of Sting and Darby versus Big Bill and Ricky Starks. So, all right, got it up. I mean, I knew what went on in this, but I'm trying to debate how I want to start. We'll go through the match. The match was really good. If you don't call it out, I will, but I'll let it to you. There's one really cool.
You haven't called out many spots, so feel free.
When Darby did the suicide dive to the outside and got caught in this, the Boss Man Slam, whatever other way you want to call it, fantastic by him and Big Bill. Just really well done. Like that looked smooth and painful. That was a spot that was everywhere, but it deservingly so. There was one point where Big Bill had Darby up, and Sting came and hit him, but it almost looked like Darby was about to fall on Starks.
Yeah,
I was very worried, and I'm pausing for some reason. So Sting and Darby end up winning with the Scorpion Death Drop on Starks. They are your tag team champions. We all think we're happy. This is what a way to end the night. We're all going happy. And then some dastardly businessmen come around. The EVPs in pure white, which is going to matter, come out and assault Darby and Sting with, were they pipes or bats?
White. Looks like they're white bats.
Okay, I couldn't tell.
No.
So with white bats, and they beat Sting and Darby to hell. Darby's busted open, so their white suits are now just covered in blood. They hit, was it Sting or Darby with the trigger?
Darby.
They hit Darby with the EVP trigger. We were specifically told it was changed from BTE to EVP. They have made a statement.
Can't wait till they turn being the Elite to being the EVP.
Oh my! And so fans were booing this. This one is about as well as you could hope for. For this turn. Like obviously, the Bucks were gonna, but this worked really, really well. What do you think of the match and the after and all that jazz?
I think it played out as well as it could have been, since I thought that Sting and Darby were going to win the titles when they announced this match, a week or so ago. And I think for the Bucks to get a lot of heat, they had to come in and attack them and beat them down afterwards to really give Sting and Darby a reason to have this match with them. Otherwise, you're just kind of you just want to be your final match, but having the titles on the line makes it that much more important. You forgot they also beat up Sting's sons.
God, I forgot about his son.
Innocent bystanders, who.
So yeah, his sons were there, and they come in to celebrate. And listen, actually now that you brought it up, I am going to say it. You knew something was going to happen because they had this awkward look on, or movement or look of making sure they were in their spot, I guess.
Yeah, the timing and the spots and the
Yes, and I'm and I remember, it didn't ruin anything. It just was really funny to watch. And what I didn't at the time, I didn't know that it meant the Bucks were going to attack. I didn't know what they were setting up for. I didn't know if Sting was going to do a Sting thing or something like that. But you just knew something was going to happen.
Especially with the announcement of the overrun and that being the main event, you're like, all right, something's going to happen after the match.
Yeah, it was so funny.
I thought aside from assuming that they were going to win, I felt like the things in the match that really sold me on Sting and Darby are going to win was, one, it's the Sting tag team special match of a tornado tag match. I don't think he's rarely in a regular tag match with Darby. He's always tornado. And two, the other thing that sold me that he was going to win was he did the dive off of the tunnel. But, why not when you're 60-some odd years old and you're a few weeks away from your last match?
all I could think about is why, Sting, why?
But I thought, also talking through the match, I thought Big Bill looked really really good in this match as far as like being able to what he did with Darby, and I thought that made him look really strong. You mentioned the counters with the Bossman Slam or the Black Hole Slam. I just like watching him toss Darby around the ring and like slamming his head into the mat. I just thought it made Big Bill look really good.
Sting and I think Darby and Big Bill have really good chemistry.
Mhm.
Like
It's a
they
typical
played off
small
each other
guy.
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you not I mean, we always remember the ones that work, but there have been plenty of times where it just didn't work. The big guy, either the small guy couldn't
Mhm.
realistically move, like get like
Yeah.
it just like they didn't gel for whatever. They weren't moving at the small guy couldn't slow down enough for the big guy, or the big guy couldn't, move enough to catch this but again, like the dive into the slam. Wow.
Mhm.
Like Big Bill's incredible. I mean, I like him and Starks as a team, but they each have a singles run in them. I mean,
Mhm.
Starks has many in him, but
Yeah, the only thing he's missing was Big Bill catching Darby and lawn darting him into a semi trailer, a la Kevin Nash and Rey Mysterio.
Booyaka. Oh, that was before those days.
Mhm.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. Rey Mysterio's WCW theme if you paid me.
I don't remember. It's hard to remember anything of his besides the one he has right now.
I did legitimately the same problem. I only know Booyaka, Booyaka, 6-1. I couldn't sing it and I can't sing it, but he did have that one theme when when he first was really starting to get hot in WWE.
Sorry,
but
I took you down a rabbit hole now.
yeah, we'll get away from this rabbit hole because it'd be bad for me. So clearly, what you were predicting is coming true. You had Sting and Darby win the belts, and now it's going to be Sting and Darby versus the EVP Bucks. They gotta think of something instead of Young.
Other than the Bucks?
No, Bucks is fine. No, yeah, but I want something to replace Young.
Or just call them the Jacksons?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're gonna go with the Bucks. That's gonna be the way it ends up going. But executive Bucks. EVBs, the executive vice Bucks. I don't know. I have nothing good, but I think one in front of the other would be funny.
Yeah, you got some time to workshop that.
Yeah. So they're gonna win, clearly. They're gonna beat Sting and Darby. I mean, it'd be stupid of them to lose. Because at this point, they're Sting and Darby are Darby's not, but Sting's on his way out. He's retiring. I forget who said it, but he's still gonna get his. Might have been on the cruise. It might have been Bully Ray of all people, who I don't usually credit with a lot of good ideas, but Sting's still gonna get his standing ovation and cheers after he's laying down in the ring. When he gets up and he's whatever, he's still gonna have his moment, so he doesn't have to go out. Jesse Ozog, middle management Bucks. He doesn't have to go out on top to have his moment. Like he's still gonna have it.
Yeah.
The
Bucks are gonna cheat. They're not gonna win clean. So
Yeah. So they're gonna get so much. Like there are the heat on them already. So good.
I think they pin Darby, and then Darby feels like he'll feel like he let Sting down, and Sting will have to console him.
Yeah. And then that's gonna leave Darby on an interesting story without this is gonna be the first time since almost the beginning of AEW. When did Sting come in? 2021?
During the pandemic, during Daily Place, so
Yeah. Hold on. I want the year.
3 years sounds about right.
Yeah, so it was no, it was 2020.
Okay.
It was December 2020. So that would make sense. 2020, yeah. So you're talking, yes, Darby was there for all of 2020. But other than that, except for that first year, Darby's always had Sting. Darby's always had that safety net, and you no longer have that. So you wonder what they're going to do with his character, because that's a story. Like, is he going to be lost? Is he not going to know what to do with himself? He lost his guy. So that's an interesting story. And then obviously you have the Bucks, who are just going to be so hated, and they're so good at it. I'm so excited for all this. Do you have any closing thoughts on the feud that we're about to see?
No, I think it's all kind of playing out as we are kind of predicting or forecasting. So no matter if it's right or wrong, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that was the end of Dynamite. Couple news and notes. I do have a couple. So if you didn't know, there's going to be tickets on sale this weekend for the Boston show. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. Obviously there's still rumors out there that AEW thinks they're going to get to Okada, which should be fun, but we don't know. And there's rumors that they're going to get Camille from NWA. Any thoughts on Camille coming over?
I don't have a great deep familiarity with Camille's work. Very, very high level, surface level knowledge of the match, of some of the matches.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you. I've seen her have a few matches. I wasn't a huge NWA watcher, though. From what I understand, she was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's
another big name from another promotion. I mean,
yeah,
you're only making your roster that much building depth. So,
yep. And then to round out news and notes, something that's tangentially related to AEW, very tangentially, but I do want to bring it up because it could impact. Oh wow, I didn't even mean that pun. I really am on a roll tonight. It could impact future AEW signings, relationships, partnerships. Scott D'Amore is out of TNA as of today. For anyone unfamiliar, Scott D'Amore has been the president of TNA for the last couple of years. He's been with TNA for 2 decades, but he really was the guy who took over TNA and righted the ship after they originally went to Impact and then Global Force Wrestling with Jeff Jarrett, and they had a whole bunch of disasters. Scott D'Amore was the one who righted that ship and made Impact, maybe not TV wise or monetarily, but at least quality wise, a true competitor, third promotion for. And sometimes they're putting on better stuff than either AEW or WWE. So quality wise, they were there. They just clearly don't have the money on the TV. The reasons being given are that they want Anthem wants TNA to be more in line with more synergy. And they felt, this is at least the rumor out there right now, this could all come back to be false. This was the original rumors that they wanted more in line and that they didn't think D'Amore fit that view. I don't know how you can view that. The guy turned TNA around. I mean, he made that. And from what I understand, there were a lot of wrestlers who were very unhappy with the way that went down, which is why I bring it up. So D'Amore was, so from what I understand from writers who know way more than I do, Sean Ross Sapp, PW Insider, all those guys, D'Amore was responsible for reforming the relationships with New Japan, the Mexico, CMLL, AAA. Like, he rebuilt those relationships after Impact had kind of butchered them. And obviously, he's the one who a lot of wrestlers liked. will have an effect. Screw you, Joe. Will have an effect on obviously future partnerships with those other companies, and signings. Any thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas?
Yeah, my first thought was just it'll be interesting to see how they work with other entities because you have the history of AEW and TNA working together, right? And then now all of a sudden you had WWE working with TNA, with the last couple of Rumbles with Mickey James, or especially now with Jordan Grace this past Rumble. Um, will they have that kind of relationship going forward with the new president? So I'm interested to see what kind of relationships are maintained, if any, going forward.
Yeah, I mean that's very tough, and uh, there was talks out there that if talent wanted to leave, they could at a certain level.
Yeah, Moose isn't walking out that door.
Yeah, Jordan Grace isn't going to be allowed to leave. If you're at a certain level, but again, this is, and I think what's important here is just how out of the blue it is. Literally every wrestling writer insider uh that we I'm getting some crowd. I guess Fightful just ended. Um, every wrestling insider or writer seemed to be shocked by this.
It's almost as if, it's like, I'm not saying this is why, but it's like all the other promotions have news going around them. Like, you have WWE having plenty of news going around about it for multiple reasons. AEW has news with, the likely debut and signing of, Mercedes. You have the Stardom news that had came out. I mean, it sounds like
actually,
all these promotions have had like these headlines lately, and like it's just a weird time in professional wrestling.
well, I forgot the Stardom news. We'll tie that in because this gets tied in case anyone's unaware. The Stardom founder, who was moved to EVP status, executive, oh no, he not even EVP. He was his EP. He was the executive producer. Um, I don't know. I know it's Rossi is his last name. Bushi Road cut his contract, and the reason being given is that he was essentially going to be leaving anyway to start his own promotion or go somewhere, and it was looking like he was poaching talent, or at least beginning to poach talent to come to that new promotion. And there's some insinuations that he was also helping, or at least trying to help cut deals for wrestlers to go to WWE while they were still under contract with Stardom. This is important for multiple reasons. One, it could lead to obviously another female promotion in Japan. I'm assuming it'd be female. I don't think he would try to compete in the pure male space again because I just think there's a lot over in Japan already. But maybe, and his experience has been in the women's side. But it'd be another women's promotion in Japan, which is obviously a big deal for not just Japanese women, but for American women to go over and wrestle with. It would also start you to wonder about relationships and who was what and does this strengthen AEW with New Japan, with Bushi Road, who owns New Japan and Stardom? Like, do they start to get more Stardom talent because maybe he was the block? I'm not saying I know that at all. You just start to wonder these things. These things start to get asked. Does this mess up any deals with women coming to WWE from there? Does this open up a partnership for someone with WWE in Japan, which they wanted? They wanted a partner in Japan. Do they now get their first? It would be with a women's promotion. Well, they can go for all Japan too, but does it give them a new partner who clearly likes um clearly likes WWE? So there's a lot of interesting things. Then now you mix in the Scott D'Amore news with Anthem, and I think actually what's going under the radar with the Anthem news, with the TNA Anthem news, is that it looks like TNA wants to not TNA. Anthem wants to make TNA. Kate, if you want to come on and give your opinions on, we're wrapping up, but if you want to give your opinions on Mercedes and some stuff, I'd love to hear them. I think I sent you the link. What's going on is that they said they want Anthem wants TNA to be more tied in with it and more corporate synergy and become a bigger part. I could read that badly, or I could read that in a good way. Obviously, it starts bad by getting rid of the guy who helped turn around the company, and you worry about what does that mean? Because there's always this assumption that you can plug and play and someone can just keep things going. And we learned that through many promotions over time. That's just not true. But it's also good because maybe they'll finally be getting better TV or a real investment, which would really change where they are in the wrestling landscape. Any thoughts? I know I just kind of spitball that out there, but it's an idea, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait until Kate gets on here because she can probably speak better to a lot of this than I can because she watches more of this, more of the products of Stardom and New Japan and things like that.
Kate hates wrestling. I don't know what you're talking about. God, they had a lot of blood on their clothes. The Jacksons had a lot of blood on their clothes. Hello.
Hello. How we doing?
We're good. We were at our.
Here?
What'd you say?
You're wrapping up around here.
Yeah, but we would like your opinion on a couple different topics because we'll go with one we're on right now because you're actually the most experienced on this one. We're talking about both the firing of Scott D'Amore.
Sure.
And actually, technically, I guess the firing of Rossi, or however he says his name, over in Stardom and Bushiroad. Thoughts on how that changes? I mean, because it is tangentially related to AEW in the sense that relationships, contracts for wrestlers, signings, all that stuff now is impacted. Thoughts on how it impacts AEW and the greater wrestling landscape?
So,
I'm sorry, Ryan. Did you say did you drop the word impact multiple times there too?
I did.
You're on one tonight. You're just.
I am.
I will say what Sean said because I don't know as much, but he said, the question with TNA this whole time has still been like, great, like he turned around the company on a shoestring budget, truly. Like, okay, but you're still not, like, how do you make money? Because it doesn't, we don't know if they're making money. And if you're bringing in Nick Nemeth and Ospreay for some dates and all these things, you're making all these positive changes. Trinity didn't take peanuts, you know what I mean? Like, there's how is it a profitable business or is it an entertaining product? Sometimes those two things don't always match up. So that's one thing. The other aspect, and I can't speak too much to this because I don't know too much about it, was Scott D'Amore was in charge of handling an investigation about sexual harassment from Don Callis to someone else. And the intention was to bring in an independent third party. And it was not an independent third party. It was somebody that I don't know what the bias in the case might have been, but had an objectionable case. That was a while ago. Obviously, all the Vince stuff, I'm sure, is making everybody pause and question things. But my guess and the guess of other people that I reached out to is that it is probably the financial side of this. You just had this very successful rebrand, and you might need someone else to A, do what Scott was doing for less money, or B, do a better job of the business side of it. If it was just that, I would imagine they would have just made him just the head of creative or something and maybe slashed his salary or something. Because my understanding is he was wearing a ton of hats there, but that's the impact side of it. I don't know how that affects things at all. I think AEW and Impact, now TNA, had like I wouldn't say it was like a friendly relationship after the working relationship, but I don't think it was a bad relationship either. It wasn't soured. It just wasn't like beneficial to either party particularly. So that's kind of the TNA stuff. The Rossi stuff is bad shit. The Rossi stuff, he it sounded like was kind of a double agent of sorts for his own brand, which is really weird. I don't know. There are rumors, nothing reported, at least by Fightful. And I think pretty much anybody else with a respectable reputation. There are rumors that he was being waived job or creative consult or whatever with Triple H at the helm, and that he was helping negotiate major stars of his own promotion out of it in exchange for that. I would guess Triple H is probably on a bit of a shorter leash at the moment based on what is going on with the investigations and current WWE creative. How that affects things in Stardom, I don't know. I do know one of their main talent said that she's staying there. Julia, who's the biggest talent, said that she was going to go with Rossi to his new promotion for the remainder of what would have been the rest of her contract. So the only way that really affects AEW, from my understanding of it, is that everybody was like, why isn't AEW interested in Julia? Is it because she works too stiff? Is it because talent who's from Japan already? She's under contract for another year. You're not allowed to have interest in her until like at least months and months from now. I've heard as early as May, I've heard as late as August, and people were showing interest in her as soon as the beginning of the year. So my understanding and what I've heard from people both in and around AEW was that you can't have an interest, not a formal one. So that's part of the reason there was no interest in Julia. They've got other fish to fry with actual free agents in the women's division, including Mercedes and Diana, and now more recently it sounds like Camille. So we'll see where that stands. But it sounds like Julia is following Rossi until the end of what was her Stardom contract, and then will likely go to WWE. I don't know what the hell is going on with the rest of that. That's bananas.
Okay. But it has to change the free agent, or not even necessarily free agent, but the wrestler pool for AEW. I mean, in two different ways. In TNA, because it seems like a lot of wrestlers are unhappy with Scott being removed.
Yes.
At least that was some of the initial reports. So opens up people who may now start trying to look elsewhere. And for Stardom, one, it may change the relationship where TNA might actually, I mean, not TNA, where AEW might actually start using Stardom talent a little bit more. Or now you have a second women's promotion in Japan. It's another competitor for certain talents.
I mean, and not even just a second. I think there's a few under the Joshi umbrella. I'm very unfamiliar with that scene. I won't pretend not to be.
There
but
are,
it is,
I guess I meant at like a level. Like
sure, like I think Ice Ribbon, right? Like there's all sorts of stuff over there, but Stardom's like the biggest name, and they're also the other one owned by Bushi Road. What I think is interesting here is Mercedes is open to working in Japan still, and there's still people over there that are rooting for her too. My guess is that would still be under the Stardom Bushi Road umbrella, more likely probably under the New Japan women's title picture. But Stardom had a tough year. They got beaten up by a lot of injuries. They lost a lot of the momentum they had. When you hear internal strife like this, you start to maybe understand why. If there were top talent that was actively being pushed out of there or negotiating their way out of there, it's hard to do that. And it's also very stable based over there too. So it's not like you're just losing Julia, you're losing the entire stable of, I think it was DDM, I think is the name of it. So it's a trickier landscape, and in general, Stardom, New Japan, ROH before it got bought, TNA is in the same boat where it's like they are going to have to solve the problem for themselves of we grow stars and then they leave. And you have to do that either by retaining talent or always having the next star up, right? Like New Japan realistically has, I think the War Dogs are going to resign, so that's huge for them. Zack Sabre Jr. signing is huge for them, but they lost to Will Ospreay, who was their guy, and they lost Okada, who was their ace. The Sonata title reign was great, but I don't think it was like a this is the next guy type level of great. So I think what promotions on that level, male or female or both, are going to have to figure out is that piece of it. And that's where I think this gets a little bit more interesting is what is TNA realistically going to do to solve that problem while also how do you bring more money in the door without spending more money is something that I don't know how any of these guys solve. MLW just signed Bobby Fish. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. It's just interesting. Like, again, we don't usually obviously don't cover those, but when two guys fall out and now all of a sudden you're like, what's the, you know,
Well, it's all
the
of them
competition.
too, right? Like you have Tanahashi taking over New Japan. You have all the instability in WWE. You have Scott D'Amore in TNA. I don't follow All Japan, but All Japan had a shakeup apparently as well, and Stardom, like kind of everywhere that's above an MLW, NWA level is shaken up. Ironically, AEW is the one with the least drama at the beginning of the year, which is not something I would have said at any point last year. So,
maybe it was good that they had all theirs out last year.
Yeah, maybe that's what. Sure seems like since one specific person left, things calmed down realistically.
Well, speaking of that one specific person, not really him, but we talked about this at the beginning, and Joe and I kind of had Joe, for rightful reasons, and I'll let him explain it himself if you have a question, had a little different take on this, but clearly Tony Khan had his big announcements tonight, and that's that they're going to be in Boston. So all things considered, we know it's Mercedes. They had the boss ton in their own graphic. Even without the spoilers out there, if you read the spoilers out there, she signed, but even without those, they gave it away in their own graphic. This is the CM Punk treatment.
And it's not John Cena, so like who else from Boston is it going to be? Right.
But this is the CM Punk treatment. This is, you don't actually say they're coming. You just give every single hint in the world to say it. You let the people you let the people read spoilers online or put the pieces together. You go to their hometown, you name a show after them, you basically count on them alone to sell this place out at a time. This is the CM Punk treatment. So what is your thoughts on all of this?
I think it's probably the most historic women's wrestling talent rollout of a modern era that you've ever gotten on the women's side. I think that's really cool. I think most people reasonably assumed when she wasn't showing up at Royal Rumble, she wasn't showing up in WWE. I think people probably assumed that it was AEW over Stardom just from a contract standpoint as far as money goes, and the fact that you can work AEW and still work Stardom. That was most of the feedback that I had heard from people that were like tuning in the past few weeks. And I think it's awesome. Like, I think it's really cool that, like, there's not a lot of people that got the CM Punk treatment outside of CM Punk, right? And his was because he was returning. Yeah, like his was because he was returning to wrestling after 7 years. And it was a huge, huge, huge deal. This is a huge deal, not because it's going to be so surprising or I don't know if it's momentous in the same way, respective to the industry as a whole, but I think it's momentous to women's wrestling and this women's division. And to give a female athlete that kind of treatment is just something that is unprecedented. And I think that absolutely rules. I don't know if you do, hypothetically, if they have Okada, it's called big business, right? So do you do Mercedes comes out, gives a 20-minute talk, and then somewhere in the middle of the show you hear a coin drop and you double down like you did with Adam Cole and Danielson? You could do that. You could also just hint that Okada's coming if you do have him. Just the name of the show being big business is like very money focused, and you have a coin drop. You have the iconic picture of Mercedes and Okada in Japan, right? So yeah. So I think it absolutely rules whether they do that as a standalone for her or if there's more to it. But Sean had said on this show that he had confirmed through New Japan that when everybody was talking about a Julia Mercedes match, there were sources in New Japan who were very upset by that because they couldn't, because she was still injured. All those training videos that she posted were from months prior. So she was still injured and playing everybody this whole time. Ha ha ha. She got us all. That she wouldn't have been cleared for that match. So I think the timing of it's really cool. And I'm excited. I'm just excited to see what she brings to the division, which is cooking outside of her. You know, it's like this will just take it up another level.
So I feel like I'm interviewing you, and this is weird, but since we talked about it, I'm asking you questions. So I'll give you what do you think it means for the division? Like, let me ask you that. What do you think this means for the division?
I think it'll probably mean the cementation of more screen time. I don't think that you put someone who will likely be one of the biggest draws, man or woman, and not continue to develop what you've already had in motion. I think in ring, she's capable of making pretty much anybody look as good as anybody could look. I think star power wise, she brings an entirely different element than anybody that is there currently. And the only person that came close was probably Jade, and Jade didn't have the in-ring experience to bring what Mercedes can bring as an entire package. Her contributions to wrestling and her expansion from pop culture, I think, is going to open doors for other women in AEW. You don't see them on reality shows and with clothing lines and stuff. Like, there's not a lot of people that are doing that. So I think you're going to see her knock some of that stuff down. And I think Mercedes versus whoever is just going to be a very big deal for the next 3 to 5 years. I really do. And there's a lot of people that can be in that spot. If Jamie Hayter is capable of coming back, that's like, I think you're going to hear, if you can do Mercedes versus Jamie Hayter at All In, I think you're going to hear the biggest women's wrestling pop that has ever been had in AEW. I think that'll be absolutely bonkers. So there's so many matches people have lined up in their head. Who she debuts against is really interesting. I think it could be, I go to Sheeta and I go to Willow, of Willow being for the story that she put Mercedes out. Coming back to visit that is really interesting. Sheeta is just not doing anything right now, and she's the in-ring ace of the division. A lot of fun to be had there too. So we'll see. We will see.
So what do you think do you think Willow's her first feud? Who do you think her first feud is?
I feel like just because there's so much going on with like Willow and Chris and stuff, I would say like not being used right now, and this is a cool problem to have, is I feel like Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa seem to be kicking around the mid-card picture a little bit. I would probably say Sheeta just because she's the one that's been like completely off screen and carries the prestige of being a 3-time champion and one of their best in-ring performers.
It's a shame. Joe, I mean, unfortunately, I think injuries can prevent it because Joe nailed the best feud, which would have been Britt.
Yeah, I don't know what her status is right now. I don't know what her status is.
That would have been the one to walk into. But so
she was that for Saraya. Saraya could be that for Mercedes, but that feels like something you do down the line. Yeah. Revisiting Mercedes. Saraya.
I'm going to throw Joe under the bus here, but actually he was valid. His problem, the whole thing is he feels like this has been a conversation for so long.
Hold on. Before you start, I support women. I support women
you
wrestling.
You hate women. I understand. Okay.
I wasn't going to say Joe, to me, if the way it was described to me, and I'm speaking for Joe, but this is kind of fun for me, so I'm going to do it, was that it had been talked about so much and hinted at so much that it had lost a little bit of that steam or excitement for him. That once, I don't think it's the future isn't what he's talking about. I think he meant the announcement. Like, this announcement didn't hold the same as it could have because it was not out of the blue at all. It wasn't like
very expected, and Joe hates women. Like, that's just the only conclusion to draw from that. No, I get that. Like, it's been talked about to death, and it was, the handwriting couldn't have been more on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, we knew it was coming. I'm more intrigued to see what the actual presentation looks like once it like gets there. But I can understand because it was an announcement about something you already knew. Like that makes sense.
Right.
But I think
I know with the investment you have in Mercedes and throwing all this promotion and pomp and circumstance around her, like, you can't. I just want to make sure, that AEW doesn't like fumble the bag and miss this grand opportunity to have like walking in the door for them, and like what you said, what it can do for them for years to come.
Sure.
And there've been so many times in the past where we think they have the right trajectory and momentum, and somehow they stumble over their toes or their feet, and we go 2 steps back instead of going forward. So I'm hoping that's behind us, and it's just bigger and better things now from this moment.
I agree, and I think you're right, and that it was. If you've been paying attention, this was not a surprise in any way. I think a lot of people felt this way about Soraya, but she just unfortunately doesn't have the ring capacity that I don't know if anybody knew what to expect from Soraya, and the fact that she also has fibromyalgia on top of the neck issues is shoestringed her a little bit. I also think that maybe they got too invested in the idea of one big name coming in and didn't back it up with screen time, appropriate booking, appropriate feuds, which nobody can do anything for you if you're not going to support it, right? So my guess is Mercedes is probably going to be the highest paid woman in wrestling from this, or very close to. I think she takes a lot of pride in what her value is, and I don't think you make a financial investment up front if you're not going to back it up. And this is also kind of the last, other than the multi-man pictures. I know a lot of people aren't happy with the trios and the tag pictures. This is kind of the last piece of the puzzle that they need to really have cemented as a company. I think this has been the complaint from the beginning. So to have that continue to develop, I think is something that's really good.
Do you think so? This was like going off Joe's concern, and this is. Do you think it's gonna that she guarantees more women's segments, or do you think they just replace the women's segments they have now with her?
No, I think you'll see expansion of screen time. We've already seen on Collision 2 weeks in a row of 2 women's matches. My guess, I think the way Sean had put it on a show weeks ago was it's like the Mercedes segment and a women's segment. So it'll be an added speaking segment or an added match, and what you were already kind of doing was the way that it was framed.
And totally unrelated, but I didn't notice this before. I need someone to answer this for me. When did they start doing that thing with their the barricades?
I don't know.
That
I think
looks
they did
really
it on
cool.
Collision.
Well, the stage there, but
I mean, the stage there.
that looks really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I feel like they just started doing that.
It's definitely recent.
Yeah, definitely recent.
They made a lot of good production changes lately. Like the camera shots have been cooler. I loved the backstage stuff in the opener tonight. It was really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was the first time I ever noticed that. I'm like, what is that? I never, that was really cool. Well, actually, before we wrap this up, but I just went. Deanna was when Joe and I were talking about. Deanna is why I feel good about Mercedes coming in, because every other big wrestler that I said this to Joe, maybe you'll disagree. So I'm trying to get your Athena. She came in. She had basically a 2-week story with Jade. Taya came in, a 2-week story with Jade. Soraya is a bit unique because Soraya, I think they realized she can't wrestle as much as maybe they had hoped she could. Tony came in and had absolutely no story. Deanna came in and so like Taya and Athena's story was Jade's story. It wasn't their story. It was Jade's. Jade had an open challenge and they were responding. Deanna came in. She's had a 6-week build with Tony, and it's every bit her. I said this, Joe. It's every bit her story. It's her personal relationship with Tony. It's her history. She's proving she's as good as she's supposed to be. They're letting her have multiple promos. They're letting her on commentary. To me, it's the first time they've had the first woman they brought in who's actually had real development to start. I don't know if you feel the same or.
I do, but I feel like that's often actually the case with the men too. Punk came in and he had the Darby stuff, but that was not very, very few people have walked into championship pictures. The men have just had more sustainability coming in and out of it. Like Bryan Danielson had a Kenny Omega dream match, right? If you're bringing it into the biggest attraction in the women's division, that was probably Jade. She wasn't the strongest in ring, and she didn't have history with anyone because she'd never done it before. So there's not as much to play off of. But I agree that the Deanna welcome has been probably the best one, but it's also, you've had the most cemented championship story for her to walk into. She carries the in-ring ability. I mean, one of the best technical wrestlers in the world, period, man or woman. probably the best technical women's wrestler in the world, at least in North America. So I think it's also all of the circumstances being right. But I will say they very rarely like sign someone and hotshot them into a picture. I don't even think they'll do that with Will Ospreay, and he's probably the best wrestler in the world. So
that makes sense. So any final thoughts on the Mercedes coming in?
I'm just glad that my boss is going to get to sleep maybe at some point, but I
I don't think so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with this WWE stuff, but like that it does in covering all this shit feel like a monkey off your back. But I am so excited for what it's gonna mean. And what's really cool is like I think about like Ali Cease, right? Like there's a whole generation of people that are a little younger than us, just a little.
Only
that,
like a year or two, yeah.
Only a couple years. But like grew up watching her and Bailey. Like they didn't have the Divas experience that we did. So they don't have like the revolution piece of it, but they grew up with the match that made them fall in love with any wrestling, being Bailey and Mercedes, or Bailey and Sasha at that point. Or we're a couple years behind us and how special Sasha and Bianca was and things like that. Like it's really, really cool that there are people who in their more formative years of wrestling, like they just had that. Like they grew up with Sasha and now like they're carrying it into their adulthood this way. So it's just special. It's always special when one of the best wrestlers in the world shows up somewhere, right? And now I'm excited for if she walked into WWE and walked right into the story that they have with Bailey, that would have been great too. A whole new slate of competitors is really, really, really exciting. And for her to get to continue her relationship with Japan, I think is really special too. Like it's a good deal that you get to work at it promotionally. So I'm just excited. I'm excited for the actual her showing up part. It's gonna make me really happy.
Any comments on tonight's show you want to make? You don't have to. I'm just
Swerve and Hanger was fucking ridiculous. What a blast.
Yeah.
That match was incredible. I love that we're hinting at this double turn. I love the story of like that Tony Storm, Deanna pulling Tony Storm out of her psychosis is like simply making her be a wrestler again. Like she was definitely not a performer against Red Velvet tonight. Like she was more back to her like proper in-ring style, which I thought was very clever. Takeshita making Jericho submit to his own move is really cool. Hechicero is unbelievable, and the CMLL stuff I thought was fun. Banger of an episode, and good for Sting and Darby. Like it would have been really cool if the Bucks cost them instead, but like them actually holding the title is a special thing. So I thought it was a really strong episode overall. Really fun to talk
I had
about.
a lot of fun. Joe, do you think it was a strong episode overall? You've been quiet since Kate came on because you don't support women.
Yeah.
No, I support women so much that I want Kate's voice to be heard by all. Without interruption. No, it was good. I always kind of judge the Dynamites based on how fast I feel like the show is going. And this one flew by. Like I looked and like, oh, we have like 25 minutes left of the show. So that usually tells me that it's been a really solid episode.
Yeah, that they do time limit draws extremely well in this company. Extremely well.
Yeah. Well, I was glad that it wasn't your typical time limit draw. That Swerve sat down and said, let's go. And everyone thought, okay, we'll get the 5 minutes. We've done this a few times. And then Hangman took the MJF approach. No. Wait, maybe you can answer the question. I bugged Joe about this. Maybe you can answer the question. Hangman was the number one, was ranked 1. Swerve was ranked 2.
Yes.
Why?
Why, from a wins and losses perspective?
Yeah.
I think Hangman had one more match than Swerve had. I think.
Okay. I couldn't.
I think.
No, I'm sorry. I lied. That's not why I was wrong. Swerve was 1 and Hangman was 2. This is where the confusion was. We all thought Hangman was 1 and Swerve was 2, but Swerve was 1. So why did Swerve have to beat Hangman?
Was it something from the dealer's choice matches? I don't remember.
I don't either.
I just know Samoa Joe was like, you're both frauds.
Oh, that was he looked so mad. It was great.
It's so great.
I want him to hold the title. I want him to keep it at Revolution and let Heyman and Swerve cost each other the belt.
I want him to hold the title forever is my problem. So like there'll never be a good time for him to drop it. Like I love Samoa Joe so much. I just want him to hold it forever. People were like, he should hold it into the Fightful show. People were like, he should hold it until All In. And I was like, no, because if he's at All In, I'm gonna be like, he should just hold it till the next pay-per-view. Like I love him. I love him so much.
You're basically you are the like he should just hold it forever.
He should.
He's a perfect champion. He can go in ring. He does great promos. He's self-aware. His media outside of wrestling is great with the interviews.
He's the best. He's the best. He's the best. Love Samoa Joe so much. It's Swerve's time though. It's Swerve's time.
Yeah, I mean, this would you add a strike. Like I said before, Joe can lose and he will not suffer at all because he's Joe and he'll go on a rampage having lost, and it'll be hilarious. Now I am on a fucking burner. Jesus Christ, Kate, I've made like 20 unintentional puns. It's bad.
What if Joe is Okada's incoming feud? We talked about that.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That could be a really fun thing. Like Joe loses the title, it goes ballistic, and then the first person he sees is Okada. That could be really fun. He could feud with Hangman off of this, like if Swerve just wins and moves on. So I think Joe being a transitional champion is perfectly fine. I love him, so I never want him to lose the title. I definitely don't want him to fucking vacate it like he did the ROH title. So.
You say it's Swerve's time, but I think pro wrestling has taught us that we can delay the storybook ending for another year.
I feel like
or two.
We shouldn't do that, actually. And you know what? I would say there's so many ways you could play around with that for a while if I didn't think the next move was Will Ospreay winning the title at All In. Like Will Ospreay beating Swerve, who's had it for a few months, rather than like a short reign from Double or Nothing to All In. Like, I feel like he should have a healthy reign. He debuted at Revolution 2 years ago. Like, that all just feels right. So that's why I think Swerve said, and he's just so over. Like, he's just so over. Capitalize.
Yeah, 100%. That's why he's got to go face. All right. So that was our show. I'm going to now, since Kate, this is me running it, so it's always a questionable how this goes. I'm going to let you guys plug your stuff. We're going to do this ladies first because Joe wouldn't do it that way. He does not support women. Kate, where can we find you?
I let you go first all the time.
Listen, the idea is that the ladies are supposed to go first. You know what I'm saying? But you can follow me at Miss Kate Fave on Twitter and TikTok, and Katestagrams on Instagram. You can catch me on Fightful Mondays on Select, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on the main channel over there. I have no idea what's going to happen with this press conference tomorrow. There's probably going to be a bunch of extra content coming out. And you can catch me on my own YouTube channel at Miss Kate Fabe on the YouTube as well. And you can catch me here Wednesdays when I can be here. My boss isn't running to Vegas for an emergency press conference.
That's going to be an interesting one. Joey Joe?
Well, besides here on Wednesday nights and on Saturday night for our Collider cast with Ryan, you can find me on the social media at _Asian Joe. And in my bio, I have my link to my serial review blog. I finally did a new one this past weekend. So I have updated content for people to read.
Hell yeah. What one was it again?
Tricks Loaded.
Loaded Tricks. Okay, that's what I thought. Nice.
Spoiler, Joe did use plenty of innuendo.
In your
I don't know if it was I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I read the innuendo. You can find me on all our socials at Mark Order Pod, so please follow all our socials. Go to our Pro Wrestling Tee stores, prowrestlingtees.com/Mark Order Pod. Buy yourself a fancy t-shirt. Again, if you don't feel like typing that in, just go to the link tree in any of our socials at Mark Order Pod. And if you're sick of these guys, but you're like, Ryan, I really like you because you're special, you can follow my history blog here for history.com or at _here for history. All righty, people. That was my quick plug. Now this is the way Ryan ends the show. He tells you exactly what he's doing. Puts over the oh yeah. Here's the outro overlay. Oh wait, I'll say it. Wait, I gotta do this right because we don't do this on Collider, but we'll do it here. Thank you, and who joined us in the chat, Scott and Jesse. 1LT photo pieces.
Jesse shade. We
Well,
love
you know, Jesse and I have a rivalry.
I know.
Big G.
Pieces.
I said pieces. Thank you guys for all joining us and chatting. That's been a lot of fun. Scott George down there, coming tricks
Sloanamite.
loaded. Sloanamite. I don't think was Sloan tonight here tonight. I don't think Sloanamite was here tonight. But
I'm
Sloanamite
scrolling
is
in
here time to time.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna
deserves
say I'm just
hell.
looking in the comments because I wasn't here. So
Sloanamite deserves it because Sloanamite is here often enough. So thank you all for joining us, and we are going to say goodbye as I put on this outro because I don't know how to do that.